Most NRIs lose their money not because they're bad with finances, it's because they follow the old strategy to save and invest their money. As soon as they start making money abroad, they listen or flooded with information or ideas from relatives who suggest them to invest and save money into fixed deposit, gold jewelleries, or one of those uncles who bought their property back in 1996 and how it's gone up in value. And when you listen to all of these advices, as an NRI, you just feel stuck. So we can fix that, and I'll show you a 5-bucket NRI money plan which will give you clarity, confidence, and helps you give you a strategy to approach your responsibility without disrespecting them. Stick around for 10 minutes and I'll show you exactly where you should put your money and why. As the name implies, this is a stability bucket. You want to make sure that you put aside 15 to 20% of your day-to-day expenses into this particular account. This is where all the funding takes place for your mortgages, rent, your mobile charges, your broadbands, your car, your fuel, all of those things, your day-to-day expenses. You want to make sure that this money is set aside to cover that. If anything does go wrong, you don't want to be in a situation where you'll have to ask your parents back home to fund your day-to-day expenses back in this country. Bucket 2 is your responsibility back home. And I get it, this is quite an emotional one for you. We all have responsibility, such as taking care of our parents, the mortgages, the medical expenses, unexpected weddings that might just come up, and then there are calls from your relatives asking for help. You have to set aside some money to cover all of these things, to maintain and manage those expenses. You don't want to put all of your money that you are going to fund such expenses in India, because that's where it starts getting complicated. And I've made a separate video in terms of where not to deposit or invest into fixed deposit, and I'll put a link on the top for you to view it. You keep all of the money that you are anticipating expenses back home in a high yield savings account or a high interest paying savings account abroad. So when the time arises, you're taking the money from here and sending it to India so that you manage the expenses from here, not the other way around where India is controlling your expenses. This specific bucket is designed for all your responsibilities back home. Right, the next one, the important one, is called safety net. You want to be financially responsible, and one of the ways you can be responsible is to build a safety net. I'm talking about building your expenses and multiplying that into 3 or 6 months. What does that mean? All your expenses that takes place here in the UK or US or wherever you live, multiply that by 3. So calculate everything that's in bucket 1. So your rent, mortgages, your groceries, all of those things, multiply that by 3 and 6 months. The higher the better. Take that money and put it into a high yield savings account or high paying interest account. That way this money is growing as well. You have plenty of banks that offers you a high interest rate in the UK. So there are Barclays, there is Santander, which gives you between 4 and 5%. There's Moneybox. I've made a separate videos in terms of where you can invest or save your money to get high interest rate here in the UK. And there is Roth IRA options in the US as well. There are plenty of banks in the US which gives you high yields on your savings. When it comes to bucket number 3, you don't want to get bogged down into it and get stressed about building the safety net. The safety net can be built over a period of time. Set aside 10 to 15% out of your monthly wages. Put aside that money into your safety net account, and as soon as it covers 3 to 6 months, you're well and secure. At that point in time, you stop putting that money into that. Instead, invest into the next bucket, which we rightly land into. Safety net doesn't make you rich, but it will give you the breathing space to become rich. Bucket number 4. This is where things starts getting interesting. Now that you've got everything under control, the 1 to 3 buckets, you've set everything done perfectly. Now you move into a territory where you will build wealth. How do you do that? Let's call this a wealth engine. NRIs think ways to build wealth is to invest into fixed deposit, buy gold or property. The world has changed completely. We've gone global. The new ways to build your wealth is to invest into global diversified investment, which is low cost, which we all love, and it's giving you high return as well when you stay consistent and invest on a long period of time. Now you might ask me, how do I go about building this? It's very simple. I'll give you 3 different options which you can choose from. Option 1, go with 100% index fund. What does this mean? A 100% index fund is nothing but you're investing all of your money into an index fund ETF, which tracks the performance of an index, like the S&P 500, all of the companies, 500 companies in the US, or you can take FTSE All World ETF. This one tracks US and the rest of the other large companies across the globe. Pick these 2 funds, invest your money into it, and periodically go in there and check every 6 months and see if you want to add more money into it and build this gradually. Option 2 is your barbell method. Basically, this one comprises of 80% of index fund and 20% of sector-based ETF. What does this mean? Like the first one, 80% is tracking an index performance of a country like America, S&P 500, FTSE 100, or MSCI emerging market, which is basically all of the emerging markets, which includes India as well, and also the Asian market. You can pick those and put 80% into that. The remaining 20% you can concentrate on a specific sector and invest 20% into those ETFs. It just adds a little bit of a spice into your investment. So if that particular sector performs well, then you're in a chance to actually make a little bit more extra return. Based on your risk appetite, you might want to consider that. Option 3, let's call it smart monthly NRI plan. You have a fixed amount of money set aside to invest. You want to pick a platform. In the UK, you have the stocks and shares ISA account, and then you have Roth IRA, 401k, all of those options in the US. Use this because these are tax efficient. So any returns that you make or capital gains that you make out of this is completely tax free. Take a platforms like Trading 212 and invest every month £300 or $300, and every year whenever the wages goes up or you've started making extra money from somewhere else, add a little bit more, add 10% to that. So add £25 or $25 each month, and do that consistently for 10 to 15 years. And without even you realizing it, by 15-year mark, you probably will have 6 figures in your account. I'm talking about £100,000 or £150,000 without you putting any effort, tracking no markets, timing the market, none of those nonsense. You're just purely staying consistent, and that way you're beating the inflation, and by 15 years period of time, you have a good amount of money to fall back on. Now we come to the bucket number 5, which is your emotionals or splurge bucket. Keep this down to 5 and 10%, nothing more than that. I would think about this as any expenses related to travel or impulsive purchases. You want to keep this money into a savings account or invest. My strategy is if I have a travel plan coming up in the future, let's say in about a year or 2, I want to save that money into some stocks and some ETF, and then when the travel time does come up, I utilize this money to spend for all of those impulsive purchases or splurge that I do. You don't want to be in a situation where you go on a holiday, you spend a lot of money, and then come back and you're doing a catch-up to pay off all of those expenses. Instead, you build this gradually, anticipating that these are the money that you will be spending in the future. So that way, when the travel does come up, you can actually take that money and spend it over there, and without guilty you can come back and restart building this, rather than you spend everything and then you are left with no money and then you're catching up paying off your credit cards. But remember this, don't mix this specific bucket into your long-term wealth creation, because I've seen people do this and they put everything into one bucket, and that becomes way too complicated. Break it down into different requirements. You don't want to feel guilty when you go on a holiday. If you've created this specific bucket, then you're planned. When you plan, then you have no guilt. You've saved the money and you're using that money to enjoy the holiday. Listen, as I said, NRIs, we're not bad with money. We've just have grown up listening to outdated strategy to save and invest our money, and that will change after you watch this video and you've got a plan in place. These 5 bucket strategy should give you a proper plan in terms of how you can attack each of these expenses and be in a position to live stress-free. If you found this video useful, then hit that like button and subscribe if you're new here, and share it with your friend. Remember, we all start small, but we stay consistent. And when you stay consistent, you build financial freedom. See you in the next one.